Since Hogwarts Legacy was announced to be delayed until 2022, news is as expected to be very slow. So let's take a look back at an early extensive leak full of new game details and gameplay information. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Hogwarts Legacy video. Today I will be covering an early Reddit leak that reveals lots of game details for this upcoming RPG set in Harry Potter's Wizarding World. This post was uploaded 8 months ago, June 7th, 2020, which means this huge leak came out months before Hogwarts Legacy was even announced. The post is titled Harry Potter RPG Details and reads, "I work for WB Marketing. They plan this year to show off this game among others. Here's what I know about the game. It won't be called Harry Potter anything. Instead, it's called Hogwarts A Dark Legacy. I find this fascinating. I don't think he's got the name wrong here, but that Portkey Games opted to change the name to simplify it, from what was formerly Hogwarts A Dark Legacy to just Hogwarts Legacy. The original name tells us a little bit more about the idea they had when developing the game. They wanted to create a dark Wizarding World video game, and I'm all for it. You get to customize your character. It's not super detailed, but the models look good, male or female. You are a 5th year student at Hogwarts who transfers from another wizard school. I don't know why, but it's a major plot detail later in the game. You play through all the way until graduation, and then in your first year as an Auror, you also get to determine if your character is Muggle-born, pureblood, or half-blood. That decision will provide unique dialogue and minor quest options. We later officially learnt we would be a late arrival to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, so starting off in 5th year lines up perfectly. But becoming an Auror? That's very exciting news. If we leave Hogwarts after the 7th year and become an Auror, it would take us on a journey we haven't seen much of in the Wizarding World before. It would be different, but not far from it, and your chosen bloodline when creating your character will reveal unique dialogue and quest options, which only adds to the replayability of this game. Being set in the late 1800s, I would expect purebloods to have the advantage and Muggleborns to be quite vulnerable, but we don't yet know how far, if at all, the game will cover Muggleborn or mudblood discrimination. I hope they do though, because I feel it is a key factor in wizarding society. Based on decisions you make regarding your character, and the creation screen determines the house you get sorted in at Hogwarts. This is interesting, so even though I feel this has been changed since the leak, the indirect choices you make in the creation suite will determine your house automatically. Maybe there's an attributes menu where you can change general character attributes that affect your personality. If that's still the case, I'm all for it. But remember, as these game details were leaked before Hogwarts Legacy was announced, some of these game details have changed since, and this could be one of those changes. Each of the 4 houses has a unique questline. However, regardless of the house you are in, you can't side with the villain. That doesn't mean you'll make good decisions all of the time. We were told that there are major moments in the game that can result in the deaths of important characters based on your decisions. So does unique questlines mean the story will differ entirely depending on the house you're situated in? If this game is canon, and I'm pretty sure it is, I don't think so. But again, having contrasting questlines depending on the decision you make at the start of the game means the replayability will hopefully allow Hogwarts Legacy to be relevant for a long time, which of course is what Portkey Games' aim is. And siding with the antagonist of a story is something I know many of you would want, but personally I like how you can't go so far dark. You can be a Slytherin, yes, and you can make decisions that can get your closest friends killed, but you can't go carelessly murdering everyone yourself. There's limits, and I like that. It keeps the game and the characters grounded. This next point shows how aged this post is. Some of the other game details mentioned were later confirmed and could very well still be in the game's final build, but the same can't be said for this. Game takes place after Harry Potter series and after his children go to and graduate from Hogwarts. Was told main antagonist is not Voldemort level, but is formidable and a former Death Eater. There are multiple antagonists in the game, expectations for multiple sequels. Your character has a set last name that everyone will call him or her by. Some of this info has stuck. No, Hogwarts Legacy is not set after Harry Potter's time, it's set in the late 1800s. Multiple antagonists and a formidable Death Eater-like figure can be spotted in the announcement trailer. Could this be Hogwarts Legacy's antagonist? Well, I hope not. From what we've seen in the gameplay trailer, scenes with this enemy don't seem exciting or big enough to be a duel between our character and the main antagonist of the story. We'll have to wait until the game or closer to release for the antagonist to be revealed. Multiple sequels is something I think nearly everyone would want. I know I would, but if WB Games consider Hogwarts Legacy for live service as recently suggested, we might only see this as one Wizarding World game. That being said, I do really hope it's too far down the line in development and WB Games don't consider live service for Hogwarts Legacy. Good gameplay with a great narrative is all I am hoping for. Multiple book characters make appearances, however they are keeping this under wraps. Expect Harry Potter to make an appearance appearance at some point. Of course, this is no longer the case. It's interesting if this was once an idea, but the game is set in the late 1800s and Harry hasn't even been born yet. For anyone who has asked me this before or will again in the future, it is not and cannot happen. However, other book characters could definitely make an appearance. Before Bagshot is living in Godric's Hollow around this time, Albus Dumbledore will soon make his debut in Hogwarts, and the ghosts of Hogwarts are still floating around the castle. So the potential for book characters are definitely still there, even if not the same ones as originally planned. Skill tree is robust, 5 different branches to focus your character's magical abilities, as well as perks that can unlock after X amounts of points in a tree. We were shown a perk that allows your character to slow down combat for a brief moment, another perk that allowed you to control monsters for a certain amount of time. There is also good and evil points. If you ever veer towards evil, you can learn more powerful spells. However, you cannot learn any of the major forbidden ones, unfortunately. There is a classroom assignments that have difficult puzzles which can provide significant bonuses to your character. This sounds impressive. Hogwarts Legacy is an RPG, and as seen in any other RPG, will have a skill tree to progress the character throughout the campaign. A good skill tree is excellent, and to have good and evil branches on the skill tree makes a lot of sense. What could be more detrimental than the choices you make is the actions you take, and even though unforgivable curses are banned, to go as dark in the skill tree as you can in one playthrough and good in the next, in different houses, as a different gender, with different choices, all makes up for many playthroughs and possibilities. However, controlling monsters for a certain period of time with the mind control perk is an addition that I think contradicts not being able to use unforgivable curses, because isn't the Imperious Curse unforgivable, or does the use of the same or similar spell not have the same penalty when used on monsters? Story and combat are a slow burn, but we were told the game builds up to some insane moments. Combat is fluid but relies on timing and tactics. You cannot button mash and win. Your character also has so much energy at any given time. You fight other wizards, creatures, etc. There's also a duel system for rivals. In non-missions, your character doesn't reload from a previous save, instead wakes up in the infirmary with some temporary negative effects. Possibly the 2 biggest factors of a game are slow burners. This sounds a bit worrying, but I hope both are increasingly improved as you progress through the game. The combat has layers as well. It's not as simple as button mashing like any previous Harry Potter video game. And a duel system was inevitable, so I'm happy one has been introduced. I wonder how different it will be when switching from normal combat to dueling, as we've seen some of this in the official gameplay trailer already revealed. If it flows well, that's enough for me. And then waking up in the infirmary every time you boot up the game is a nice touch that makes it feel less of a game whenever you jump back in. A reimagined version of a Nemesis system used in the Shadow of Mordor games is in this one. It's not as robust as those games in terms of quantity, but instead it's very detailed on the few rivals it generates. It creates rivals for your character. The main rival is randomly generated via the system. He or she will be unique to each playthrough, however voiced by the same voice actors. This rival can be beaten, killed, or made an ally based on your decisions you make in the game. I haven't played a Shadow of Mordor game, but a Nemesis system where the main antagonist of a story is automatically generated? I can't see how this would flow with a good story narrative, as there surely can't be solid character progression or a meaningful threat of the wizarding world if the antagonist is automatically generated. I'm not sure, but this is a feature I really hope was reconsidered or isn't in the game's final build. I want an antagonist who is a good addition to the Harry Potter universe, and will go down with the other greats even if he or she is not as powerful. A character that is understandable in their motives and has good chemistry with the narrative and our character. Continuing the leak, lots of exploring, 4 different hubs that are extremely detailed and offer lots of NPCs, interactions, secrets and quests. Hogwarts, Hogsmeade and the Ministry are the 3 I know of, not sure of what the 4th one is. Most of the game takes place in Hogwarts, however you will have missions in some surprising locations, and the end game takes place in London where you work for the Ministry. Working in the Ministry as an aura in the end game seems to be where this game is heading if this leak is true, which adds more variety to the mission types, from Hogwarts in 5th year to the Ministry of Magic as an aura, and as later confirmed, both Hogwarts and Hogsmeade are big locations, which is very exciting. Hogwarts itself being the main hub of the game and hopefully being as vast and as extensive as most of us are hoping for. Game gets extremely dark and is not made for children, so it won't be a super kid friendly game. This game is more for the fans who read the books and are now older. Expect a T or possibly M rating for the violent and dark themes. A T rating is what I expect. The announcement trailer wasn't at all too dark, so I think a mature rating would be overkill unless necessary. A T rating makes a lot of sense with what we've seen of the game so far and the likelihood of us not having the option to use unforgivable curses. Don't expect the game to be extremely dark either, but it should touch into dark plot points and areas. Quick Quidditch is in the game and it's very detailed. You can play every year, house points are in the game, a card game is also there, and we were told is as detailed as Gwent from the Witcher series. Quidditch is one aspect I know many of you really would want in Hogwarts Legacy, and if this leak is true, it's in the game. And house points being rewarded in and outside of Quidditch opens up for competition between houses and eventually the House Cup winner. This means throughout the playthrough of the story, you have the opportunity to win the House Cup 3 times in the 5th, 6th and 7th year at Hogwarts. You play as a different character at some point in the game. I believe it's the main antagonist, but I don't know. It's only for a few missions and the developers said it will be very fun and have a big surprise. This is a concept that has appeared in many single player games over the last decade, so it's no surprise Hogwarts Legacy will too allow you to play as another character other than the witch or wizard you create. If the main antagonist is automatically generated though, I don't think this will be as fun as expected. I'm still hoping there to be one main enemy surrounding the game across all playthroughs, and if so, I definitely think it will be fun playing as he or she in a small segment of the narrative. Missions as the Aura were inspired by LA Noir's investigations, however there isn't many, not sure if the actual amounts, whatever that means. As someone who's never played LA Noir's investigations, I can't really comment on this, but it does mean these Aura missions could have a detective and investigation theme to them, which is exciting. As for the league's final point, there are romance options. Your character can actually marry someone and they will be your spouse in the end game. There are also companions that go on missions with you and you can command. If you've been on the Harry Potter game subreddit, you will know all too well romance options is a feature many people are hoping for, and again, if this leak is true, that will be the case. You can romance and eventually marry other in-game characters or NPCs, which would possibly be killed off in the story due to the decisions you make, or could live on until the game's ending. Either way, this could open up for some pretty emotional key story moments if characters you formed a connection with are killed off. With that being said, these will be automatically generated characters, so without playing a game similar to this before, I don't know how good said characters can be. The leaker then finishes the post with expected trailer and then gameplay before August. Game is expected to be released around June of 2021. The announcement trailer was dropped in September 2020 and no gameplay has been revealed so far outside of the trailer. Of course, these dates could have just been pushed back due to COVID-19. Hogwarts Legacy was also rumoured to release in late 2021 until its delay in January. And then you could consider the trailer we've already seen to be the gameplay reveal as well, as it was an in-engine render of Hogwarts Legacy's gameplay and cutscenes. As with every leak that appears on the internet, for whatever reason, should always be taken with a grain of salt. In my opinion, I believe this leak to an extent. I think what was said here was true at the time, but has since been changed and altered, or will be otherwise with another year in development. What are your thoughts on these leaked early game details for Hogwarts Legacy? Let me know in the comments down below. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed and subscribe for more Hogwarts Legacy videos coming very soon. Check out the bonus level podcast in the description down below, as well as my Twitter and Instagram. A big thanks to the level 1 members of the channel, JG Cars, the Dan King, Adam Cowell and White. Thank you all for watching, but for now, stay tuned and I'll see you soon.